Hello everyone and happy Halloween! Now, most amazing fam, Halloween can be a super fun time. There's candy, costumes, and general shenanigans, and I am a huge fan. But we do have to remember safety first. A lot can happen on Hallows Eve, including what I have for you today. Now, you've seen the title, you know I have top 10 scary Halloween horror stories that actually happened, so let's jump right in. Alright, at number 10 we have Costume Switch Up. This story comes from Let's Read _YouTube on Reddit, and this user says this experience happened to him years ago when a couple of buddies and him went to a neighborhood party. It was a great party, a bunch of people, all in costume, and his friend Danny had what he said was a pretty convincing Michael Myers costume. The whole group was having a great time at the party, but it was enough of a banger that after a couple of hours, the police showed up to slowly shut the party down. The group of guys decided they wanted to keep the party going and went to the nearest licensed establishment for some booze. When they were there, the narrator of this story sees that Danny's fake knife in his Michael Myers costume doesn't look so fake anymore, and so he grabs it from his hand thinking his friend decided to get a little too in character and decided to borrow a knife from the house party. But then his phone rings, and the person on the phone is Danny. He hears Danny's voice on the other end of the line asking where the group went, and he realizes that this Michael Myers isn't his Michael Myers. Luckily, the group chases the creepy stranger away, but please, all of you better be double checking to make sure that your friends are your friends, especially when they're wearing masks. If they're not wearing masks, you should be able to tell. And now, I just gave you the short version of this story, but if you want to check out the full version of this story or any of the others, be sure to check out our sources in the description below. But for now, on to number 9. Zombie Grudge. Local haunted houses sometimes bring in locals to be the actors, which can sometimes lead to an extra special scare if they aren't your biggest fan. Reddit user Killer Orange Cat had an experience like this. He was going through one with his friends, putting on a brave face for the monsters because he knew they weren't allowed to touch him, which is typically policy unless you sign a special waiver. But there was this zombie in the 4th room, a room he went into alone, and the zombie kept getting closer and closer to him until the zombie grabbed him and slammed him against the wall and said his name. It was then he realized it was a guy he knew named Richard that didn't like him. Richard held up a knife to his neck and said that no one would hear him, and then it looked like he was gonna stab him in the chest. Richard did hit him, but it was with the hilt of the blade and left no mark on him, but it was enough of a scare. There were no witnesses, so Ricky did end up getting away with it. So I'm already deterred from haunted houses, so just be wary of local ones, because the actors, if you have any grudges, might be people you know. But not everyone gets just a scare in a haunted house, so buckle yourself up for the next few. Here is a warning of possible suicide, both accidental and intentional, for the next 3 numbers. At number 8, not a decoration. During Halloween in 2005, citizens of Frederica, Delaware thought there was a remarkably accurate decoration in their neighborhood. It was a body hanging from a tree. Around 7:30 a.m., people began to notice it but dismissed it as a Halloween prank. 1 hour passed, then another, and then close to 11 a.m., the neighbors realized the body wasn't a prop. Authorities were called to the scene and it was identified as the body of a 42-year-old woman. So, for many reasons, don't use decorations that appear to be hangings. It's not cool. And in 1990, there were 2 unfortunate deaths during Halloween due to accident or mistake. The first is our number 7, a haunted house springs horror. At a Halloween party, a group of friends was staging a haunted house in their basement. A fun idea in general. There were fake spider webs and plastic bats decorating an aunt's house. William Anthony Odom, at age 15, was staging a gallows scene. During this, authorities said the noose tightened around his neck somehow, and he passed away. If you would like to do a haunted house, there are other things you can stage, and if this first story from 1990 won't deter you to do something like hanging, hopefully a second one might. The second unfortunate passing from 1990 is number 6, Halloween HELLRIDE. Ocean Haunted Hayrides Incorporated in New Jersey ran hayrides featuring costume performers. There were different scenes for the riders of the hayride to take in, you know, going through. One of these scenes was a hanging scene where a 17-year-old actor named Brian Jewell was hung without the prop rope going around his neck, and then he would say a haunting speech. On one of the rides, the driver noticed the haunting speech wasn't being said and stopped to check on the boy, but it was too late. Brian was hung for real with the noose around his neck, and police said the death appeared to be accidental. So know your rights when it comes to work safety, please. So now I've shown you 2 different instances of fatal mistakes from staged hangings, so don't do it. safety first. And speaking of safety, don't do what this person did at number 5, run in with a vampire. Reddit user Killer Orange Cat used to like to pretend he was a vampire, he says. I just need you to know that because of the context. Now, when he was 17, he was trying to get into a bar and they wouldn't let him in, so he was sulking his way out, and this other guy noticed he was looking upset. Now, my first warning to you about this story is be wary of strangers. Just to let you know. So this random guy from the line got them beers, apparently also seeming to be a vampire enthusiast, and the two of them began drinking in a graveyard. Now, underage drinking, that's a no-no, and 2, doing that with a stranger in a graveyard maybe isn't the best idea. Anyways, so after getting tipsy by the tombstones, this Reddit user gets up and stumbles and hits his head on a headstone and knocks himself out. When this guy wakes up, not only is his head stinging, but his left wrist is too, and the stranger he met looks like he's cut his arm and is drinking his blood. So the dude passes out again and then comes to, and the mysterious vampire-ish guy is gone and there's a cloth tied around his wrist. So just take from that story what you will, as I should be thinking you were taking away safety first, stranger danger, be careful, but let's move on to the next one. Number 4, mystery man with a chain. This one comes from John Has Stories on Reddit. He was only 5 years old when it happened. On Halloween day, his mom noticed a man in a mask walk around swinging a chain. No other children around, there was no apparent reason for it, other than possibly a costume on Halloween. If I decided to go out for a walk on Halloween, I may wear a mask, you know, to get into character, or I would hold a chain, maybe to like lock up a bike or something, but both, it kind of seems a little creepy, and they were getting the same vibe. So anyways, his mom had seen this guy in a mask holding a chain during the day, and that night, while the little 5-year-old boy was trying to sleep, he hears scratching and banging on his window. It kept happening until it faded, and then there was nothing. It turns out that nothing came out of it, but what or who had been making that noise. John Has Stories says it still scares him to think about what it could have been, because they had no reasonable explanation at the time. Okay, on to number 3, wrong house. On Halloween in 1992, Yoshihiro Hattori was going to a house party with his friend Webb Haymaker, and they were both on exchange, so they were hoping for a fun time. They were in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and they were looking for a house in the country, which was supposed to be the address for the party. Thinking they arrived at the right house, they made their way to the front door. After trying to get in and knocking on the front door, they had no response and decided to try to get in through the back, thinking that might be the right way into the party. But the thing was, it wasn't the right house, and unfortunately, it was a fatal mistake. Rodney Piers, the homeowner, thought the people trying to get into his house were burglars and shot Yoshihiro. The 16-year-old exchange student died. So be careful which houses you are approaching. Next is another instance where you should be on the lookout during a night of trick-or-treating. Warning that this one mentions sexual assault. At number 2, a parent's nightmare. On Halloween in 2009, 3 teenage girls were out for a night of trick-or-treating. Expecting to just go door to door for candy, their night took a turn for the worst. In Woodbridge, Virginia, a man by the name of Aaron Thomas threatened the girls with a gun before sexually assaulting 2 of them. During this, the third girl called her mom once she found an instance to use her phone, and this caused Thomas to flee. 2 years later, he was caught, but that night is enough to scare anyone away from wanting to go trick-or-treating again. So I recommend walking with a parent if you're going trick-or-treating. It's what I like to do, at least for a bit. But on to our final story at number 1, A Vengeance in the Valley. In Napa Valley on Halloween in 2004, 3 housemates, Leslie, Adrienne, and Lauren, were handing out candy to trick-or-treaters that evening. Then they all went to sleep. At 2 a.m., Lauren woke after hearing Adrienne scream. So she ran outside, but then heard screams again, so she ran back in. Once she was back inside, she saw that both of her friends had been stabbed. She called the police, but her friends unfortunately didn't make it. It turns out Adrienne's best friend's fiance didn't like how close Adrienne and her best friend were. Eric Koppel, the fiance and alleged murderer, was jealous and took it out in the worst way possible. 1, if you are full of a lot of feelings, please find someone to talk to because it helps, and 2, safety first is what I'm taking away from all of these stories, so just be on the lookout, be safe, happy Halloween, but like be safe. And that's all I have for you. If you like those stories and you haven't seen Eamon's video, top 10 scariest events that happened on Halloween, then what are you doing? Go check that out next. But first, leave me a comment below of what you're being for Halloween and what you're gonna be doing, and don't forget to subscribe and, you know, like while you're scrolled down there. And so far, my costumes, I've been one of the Heathers, and then I was kind of like Cher from Clueless, and then a skeleton, and next, tonight, I'm gonna be Billie Eilish, thinking it'll be kind of fun. And then I have to play more costumes, but I don't know. Give me ideas. And yeah, that's it. Have a good one. Happy Halloween!